During my senior year of high school, we learned about the Greek gods. I remember sitting in class, learning about the two forces the ancient Greeks believed shaped human life, the Dionysian and the Apollonian elements. Dionysus was ruled by the heart. It's passion, pleasure, and instinct. It's irrational, creative, and emotional. In contrast, Apollo is reason, structure, discipline, and rationality. The Dionysian makes you bold. The Apollonian makes you credible. At 17, I thought it was just mythology, and I didn't realize that my life and career would be guided by these two forces. And that tension between passion and discipline, instinct and structure, has defined every meaningful moment of my life. Long before Oscar parties and movie stars, I wanted one thing: to work in the William Morris mailroom. And for those of you who don't know, William Morris is a talent agency, and the mailroom was the only way I knew how to break into the entertainment industry. But I was told I couldn't work there. I was told that the talent agency only hired insiders, agents' kids, people with connections. A few months after hearing this, I called HR and asked for an informative interview. I don't even know where I got the idea. It was sort of a what the hell, give it a shot moment. I went in and met with a woman named Ruth Ann Cioni, and the only reason she saw me was because she had just started working there. If I had contacted her 2 months later, it wouldn't have happened. They didn't have any positions at the time, but she told me to stay in touch, so I did. I was a junior in college and about to spend a year abroad. I sent her postcards from wherever I was, and I mean actual old-school postcards. I went home after Christmas and met with her again. No job, more postcards. And here's a picture of some of them that my friend at William Morris framed for my 40th birthday. Soon after that, Ruth Ann told me I needed to know how to type. So winter break, my senior year, I went to short method secretarial skills in the basement of the Penta Hotel across the street from Penn Station. It was hardly glamorous. But the Apollonian side of me said, do it. This is what you need to do. After graduating from Tulane, I went back to William Morris. Still no, I still needed a connection. So I pressed my parents, you must know someone. It turned out that the cantor at our temple was friendly with a big shot William Morris agent, the kind with a perennial tan and a flower in his lapel. Asking the cantor wasn't strange because I knew him fairly well. When I was younger, I'd gone to a Hebrew day school, and I could read and write in Hebrew. I was the best bat mitzvah student he ever had, and he was more than happy to make the introduction. So I went in and met with the big shot agent, and he gave me all of 5 minutes, and that's all I needed to begin the process of interviewing to become a trainee. This was 1986. There had only been one other woman in the mailroom prior to me. And I loved that job. You punched into a time clock, you delivered mail twice a day, you folded meeting minutes, you delivered Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, and as a trainee, we took those minutes home and studied them. That's how we absorbed the business. So when people later said I have good instincts, yes, but I had done the work. I had read the memos. I studied the patterns. I asked questions. I learned how the machine functioned. So here's another example of what I'm talking about. Years after working in the mailroom and becoming a film executive, I needed to find an LA-based studio head. His office wouldn't tell me where he was staying. He was in New York, and his office wouldn't tell me where he was staying. And as this was still the Stone Ages, there was no internet to try to find him, and you had to think on your feet. So what did I do? I called every high-end hotel in Manhattan and asked for him, one by one. It was systematic and persistent. And this was all on a payphone. By the way, I did find him. And I wasn't going to accept "we can't tell you" as an answer. And moments like that say a lot about who I am. Because on the outside, people often only see one version of me. They see someone direct and tough. But inside, there's always been another part. I feel things very deeply. Rejection can feel catastrophic. I can't cook. I can't follow instructions. I have difficulty driving. I can't do math equations. I find it excruciating to sit still. Someone once told me that I'm the most capable, incapable person they've ever met. Growing up, something about me was different, but there wasn't a name for it. I grew up in a structured, traditional home where my parents also gave me a lot of freedom. Somehow, they knew to nurture this part of me. They didn't give me a hard time about grades, and their values weren't about getting A's. They were about being true to myself. Creativity wasn't punished, standing out wasn't a problem, and I was encouraged to be myself. Every year, my mother would tell the teacher, "Don't break her spirit." And my father had principles we called Herbisms. He would say, "You do the right thing. I don't care what other people do." Another one was play the part. He didn't mean be fake. He meant when you walk into a room, act like you belong there. Don't run scared. Be who you have to be, even if you feel like you want to pass out inside. And so I wasn't afraid of speaking up. In school, I was a justice seeker. If something felt wrong, I could say it out loud. That kind of confidence, the ability to speak up, to trust my instincts, and not worry about any consequences, well, I didn't invent that on my own. And it was only during COVID, when I was in my 50s, that I was diagnosed with severe ADD and something clicked. I still can't cook, but I do know what I'm good at. Now, let me take you somewhere very different. Oscar weekend, 1995. I was spearheading our Academy campaign and hosting our Oscar party. By this point, our party became the place to be, probably even more than Vanity Fair. I went with an old Hollywood concept and booked Chasen's, which was about to close. Thereon, it became known as the last night at Chasen's. My headquarters for the event was at the Four Seasons Hotel. I had lists of people who wanted to come, frantic phone calls asking to be put on the list, asking for their friends to be put on the list, their clients. And in the middle of all that, a successful agent I knew, actually he was promoted from the mailroom the day that I had started, called me and said, "I have to meet with his client." He said his client is blowing up, he's exploding, he's the hottest thing going. And he's a breakout TV star. And as crazy as this might sound, I really didn't know who this actor was. My life was about working 24/7, and I rarely got the chance to watch TV. And as this was the first season of the show, I hadn't read or seen anything about it. I told this agent, "I'm swamped, I can't meet with him." And he said, "He'll be at your hotel tomorrow for lunch." So the next day, I was sitting outside by the pool waiting, and in walks George Clooney. I had no idea. He was so handsome, charming, and charismatic. When lunch ended and the check came, George reached over and took it. I said, "Don't be ridiculous, I'm staying here." And yet he insisted. Actors never pick up the bill, even established ones. Now I was impressed. So I invited him to our Oscar party. He showed up for the telecast with Noah Wyle. That year, the year of Pulp Fiction, we had 22 nominations, which you can imagine made getting a table a hot commodity. I looked at George and Noah and thought, screw it, I'm going to give him a table. After the Oscars ended, every big star you could imagine poured into the room. Now, George was my buddy. I introduced him to Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. That introduction led to George being cast in From Dusk Till Dawn, his first film role. And what I soon realized was that my decision to embrace these newcomers wasn't reckless. It was earned instinct. Giving unknown actors a table was kind of a big deal. But here's the key. I could only do that because I created the party. I had credibility, and I understood the ecosystem I was operating in. And I've also been known to spot talent and figure out who will be the next big thing. I was, and I still am, passionate about creating opportunities that change lives. There's a strange combination about me that people pick up on. I can be direct, I can pass on a project curtly, I have a tough cadence, and I'm real. But underneath all that directness is a lot of thought, a lot of preparation, a lot of care. I learned early on that if you want to push boundaries, you better know what you're pushing up against. And you'd be surprised at how little it takes to convey power. Less is more. You don't need to over-explain. You don't need to justify yourself to other people. Quite frankly, most people are focused on themselves anyway. And I've tried to model that for my kids in a way that's not about pushing them, but about giving them permission to be who they are. These are the principles that I'm passing along, and not just to my kids, but to the people who've worked for me. When you're truly confident, you share your wisdom with others, and when they do well, so do you. My son is a comedian and a playwright, so he's not a conventional kid. He doesn't do the same things other kids do. He started at Kenyon College, and after his sophomore year, wanted to transfer to USC. I said, there's no way you're getting in. I mean, his grades weren't great, and on paper, it didn't seem like an obvious path. He applied, he got rejected. But unbeknownst to me, he didn't take no for an answer. He appealed the rejection, he sent them a play that he wrote, and he made a case for himself. And he got in. He owned his own story instead of letting someone else define it for him. And not only did he get in, at graduation, he received the Stanley Musgrove Award for being the most diversely talented student in the school program. There he is. And that's what I'm trying to pass on. Don't operate from weakness. Operate from strength. What's the worst that can happen? It's almost never as bad as the hypothetical. If you're nervous before going into a meeting, take a deep breath, hold it in, and start letting it out as you start talking. Look the person in the eye. People trust what you project. I've always had to innovate and do things my way, and I believe you shouldn't worry about what you can't do. Embrace what you're good at. So let me get back to the Greeks. If you're only Dionysian, you become chaotic. You burn bridges. You confuse boldness with entitlement. If you're only Apollonian, you become obedient and safe. You wait to be chosen. But if you put them together, you become powerful. You need the madness and you need the method. Relentlessness is disciplined boldness. Integrity is structure with a spine. Instinct is what happens when experience meets courage. You don't ask for permission, you earn the right not to. So the next time someone tells you no, ask yourself, is this a rule or is this fear? If it's fear, don't ask permission. But if you're going to break the rule, make sure you've done the work. Thank you.